DE? What is...
What is even happening right now?
Yo!
Hey, what is going on, all my fellow godlings and Warframe enthusiasts around the world? This is Vance from the ever-popular web series Warframe God Builds. And in that web series, we're going to be covering the Archwing Odonata Prime. Now, I know some of you are kind of disappointed that it's not Amisha, but listen, hear me out. Amisha is the most overused Archwing in Railjack right now because of the difficulty. And as previously stated by Digital Extremes in the last dev stream, they're going to be retweaking things for Archwing. That way, it's a lot more balanced. So my aim, my primary goal with these new god builds for Archwing is to kind of give you something to build towards. That way, when the balance changes come in, you can just go in and start having fun immediately. I would also like to suggest a new idea to Digital Extremes. The tile set of Uranus is submersible, and I'd really like to see that be expanded upon. I would like the bulk of the mission to be underwater with Sharkwing, and I would like to see an underwater boss battle, like a giant eel. And when you implement that idea, if it is implemented, I want there to be a stress on the usage of Archwing melees. And the reason for that being is because when you're leveling up these new god builds, you're going to realize that there is a unhealthy biotism towards Archwing melees. With the Prophet Taker introduction, we got to wield our Archwing primaries, and so we can just level these things up in normal level up missions. And with Archwings level up much faster than everything else, so melees are kind of getting neglected here, and I would like to put an emphasis on Archwing melees in like a submersible Sharkwing environment. How crazy would it be if you could take your Railjack underwater and battle like a freaking megalodon? I'm thinking of all the possibilities, and it's just crazy in my head. So let's get on with this build. We're going to be explaining the build for Odonata Prime, but first we got to tackle the core powers that make it so promising. Even in current Railjack, I think that the most useful Archwings in Warframe right now are probably going to be number 1 Amisha and then number 2 Odonata, because with your first ability you form a protective energy shell around the Warframe. Now, I'm not sure if this negates all incoming damage as long as you're facing towards the damage where it's being dealt, or if it's just a Veil Proxima thing, because when I do normal Archwing missions, the pursuits, the mobile defenses, everything of that nature, it seems to be blocking all the damage that I'm facing. But in Veil Proxima, when I've tested this, I seem to still die. I'm not sure if I'm getting hit from behind from a fighter that I didn't realize was there, or if there's splash damage being dealt, or if there's missiles that are curving around my shield. I have no idea what the circumstance is, but it doesn't seem to be as effective in Veil Proxima as it would be in normal missions. So if you are going to bring Odonata Prime into a Railjack mission, I would be extremely cautious that you are always facing toward your enemy. That way you can block a lot of that incoming damage. I can definitely take on cruise ship missiles as long as those are the only missiles coming after me and I'm facing towards them directly. So energy shell, really great. It doesn't have like a health pool to it, it's just based off of duration, so it's going to last you 28 seconds with the build that we're using. Now your second ability, the Disarray, it drops a beacon which confuses incoming guided missiles. I haven't really had an opportunity to test whether or not this confuses cruise ship missiles. I'm still firmly under the belief that cruise ship missiles should be something that's indicated on your HUD. That way you can do something about it, in which case the second ability, you can shoot it out and then the missiles automatically go towards your disarray. That would actually make Odonata Prime a lot more useful in Veil Proxima, even with this update. Even without the balancing, that would make Odonata Prime viable in Veil Proxima currently. Otherwise, I just don't use it a whole lot because it's not needed. I don't feel as though I've ever needed it, unless I see that I have incoming missiles, then I just press the ability and that's it. For your third ability, you have Seeking Fire. It fires a large volley of homing missiles. This is kind of like your Tycho Seeker on the Railjack. It's pretty strong. It's not in-game worthy strong. It's not going to be your typical go-to. But when I've tested it in the Uranus Mobile Defense Salacia mission, it was pretty effective. I wasn't shooting at any of my targets when I tested it, and I let the Seeking Fire do its job, and it managed to wipe out an enemy with the entire power cast. So it's pretty good. It's considerable damage. You know, if you have like a little sliver of health of a fighter left, and you're kind of out of ammunition with your primary weapon, you're waiting for it to recharge, you know, drop this ability, and hopefully this ability will finish off that fighter. Because fighters are, if you don't have an Amisha to slow them down, they're a big nuisance because they're so quick. But hopefully we're going to be addressing that. Now your ultimate is Repel, which is kind of counterintuitive with all the other abilities that the Archwings bring to the table. This one like blasts enemies and scatters them, whereas like Itzel and Void Hole, they're all geared around pulling them close. So push, pull, it's up to you. I think that this is a really great ability for damage. I practically one-shot everything I hit in the Salacia Mobile Defense on Uranus. But in Railjack, I'm not sure how well this is going to function. I know that it does great damage, it's a really good ult, but I think that if it's not able to CC, temporarily stun enemies that have survived your initial attack, then it's not going to be too worth it. I think that if you deploy this ult and it staggers enemies immediately after repelling them, then it would be a lot more viable in Railjack. Now before I get into the build, I really want to talk for a moment about the Salacia mission on Uranus that I've mentioned already a couple of times. This is probably the best XP farm in the game right now, and I don't think a whole lot of players realize that. Everyone's still going after the, okay, no, it's not. I've said that it was on Uranus. It's actually on Neptune. So the Uranus one is actually the interception mission that a lot of people are still using, and the problem with this is that you have to defend 4 points. You're far out of the range of shared affinity gains with your squad, and it's just so boring. It's not as high as level, it's boring, it's long, it's not going to give you the progress that you need. This is not viable for XP gains. If you want significant XP gains, you've got to go over to Neptune. You've got to go to Salacia. This is a mobile defense. Now, one thing I want to say about this mission is I've seen a lot of people that just run in, do the objectives, and leave. Don't do that. Stay with your teammates. Kill all of the enemies. All of them. Don't let there be any survivors, because the XP that you're going to get from this mission is based off of the kills. So kill everything to get the maximum amount of affinity. If you're not doing that, you're not getting the max affinity, and you're basically wasting that trip to this mission. So I would crack down very heavily on randoms that get into your game and say, what the hell are you doing? Kill all the enemies, stop rushing to the next objective, because this is the only thing we have right now that will level up Archwings and melees significantly faster than everything else, and I feel as though everyone should get on the same page, get on that bandwagon, and start using this mission to level up. Okay, so moment of truth, Odonata Prime. With this build, I am focused around, it's a pretty standard build to be honest. You've got your Argon plating for armor, ability duration is efficient transferal, enhanced durability for health, system reroute for ability efficiency, prime morphic transformer for ability strength. This is going to help with your third and your ult. Energy amplifier for ability range. Energy field so that you give your allied players a shield, which is always helpful, especially for the Elytron, because Elytron has no means of defenses whatsoever, but we will cover that in the next video. And then the auxiliary power for energy max. I could have put in probably a Hyperion thrusters, but I don't feel as though Odonata Prime needs to get into the battle as fast as the Amishas and the Elytrons. I think that lacking the speed with this build is acceptable because it's just not focused. It's more kind of like a support-ish Archwing. It's not heavy damage, it's not grouping up. Actually, it's kind of a congestion nullifier if fighters start grouping up way too close to the Railjack. You can just go out with Odonata, use your repel ability, and get them all out of the picture, especially if they're going to incorporate an update where the repel ability actually stun locks fighters for a time. That will be very, very helpful too. So that's how I built for Odonata Prime. Moving on to my primary, I'm kind of low-key disappointed that I didn't choose the Larkspur as my primary for Itzel, but Larkspur is amazing with enemies that are congested and grouped up a little bit too much, because it functions similar to a Warframe Amprex. It hits one enemy and it arcs off that enemy, chains to another enemy, and chains to the other enemy, and you're going to be seeing this primary take out groups of enemies in rapid succession. It does DPS, so it's highly useful in Railjack, normal Archwing missions. It's just a well-rounded, good gun to bring to the fight. You have your hollowed bullets for critical damage, dual rounds for multi-shot, charged bullets for electric and status, contamination casting, which is going to make your corrosive combination, parallax scope for the critical chance, critical focus for critical chance when aiming. So you got 2 critical chances there, sabot rounds for damage and punch through. And then I have a ribbon, which if you didn't have a ribbon, let's see what you might replace that with. If you didn't have a ribbon, I would replace the ribbon with hypothermic shell. Now the reason why I want you to focus on the hypothermic shell as opposed to any other mod is because Larkspur has a good status at 100%, so saying that it's a good status is a very big understatement. And the reason why we choose cold instead of anything else is because when you freeze enemies, you slow them down. So this is actually excellent support for your teammates. If you can freeze enemies, and you can freeze a lot of them in a very close area, you make it a whole lot easier for your teammates to shoot them. So if you don't have the ribbon, and you're looking for a mod to replace that ribbon, definitely go with hypothermic shell. Your teammates are going to love you. You're going to be a freaking messiah in that lobby. The last bit of this build I'm going to cover is the melee for the Archwing, which is the Nux. You can never go wrong with the Nux. I think it's one of the top tier, hardest hitting Archwing melees in the game right now, if not the hardest hitting Archwing melee in the game. The Nux are incredibly powerful. I use Bleeding Edge for critical damage, Meteor Crash for impact, which is its primary, Poisonous Sting for toxin, Galvanized Blade with electricity to make corrosive, Tempered Blade for critical chance, Furrow for attack speed, Searing Steel to add the heat on top of the corrosive, and then Sudden Impact for status chance, bringing you up to 66.0% status chance. This is a well-rounded Archwing melee that definitely does its job. It just shreds through things. and if you really wanted to get the most out of this, instead of putting an attack speed in here, you could maybe swap it out for extend, so that you get a little bit more range to it. The Archwing melee system is a little weird right now. I've noticed that with the melee Aguza, it has absolutely no lock-on lunge. And I know veterans of Archwing know that with your melees, you can kind of lunge into enemies and kind of ping-pong ball off of them. You can't do that with Aguza, but you can do that in a crazy way with the Prisma Veritux. I'm not quite sure if this will make a huge difference. It's something you're probably going to have to experiment with, but keep that in mind when you're building for Nux. Try using Extend, try seeing if it adds any lunge distance to your melee, and if it doesn't, then put the furrow back on and call it a day. But this is a good build for Nux, and I think that if you're close enough to an enemy, and once again, you're out of your energy for your Archwing, you're just waiting for it to reload, so to speak, then, you know, just start meleeing the crap out of them, because this is going to do enough damage. This is definitely going to do enough damage to finish them off. Okay, that concludes my video for the Odinata Prime loadout with the Larkspur and Nux. It's relatively simple, straightforward, to the point. This Archwing is definitely a strong support. It's not a heavy damage, it's not meant for healing, none of that. It's the second most useful Archwing, I think, currently, with this update that we're on right now. And if you learned something from this video, you liked it, it always helps if you smash that like button, comment, share, subscribe, do everything I always encourage you to do. And until next time, this has been Vance, signing out. Peace.